next interview with Chad Sweet. He's former Homeland Security Department Chief of Staff, now CEO of global security giant the Chertoff Group, and an expert on lone wolf attacks. Chad, the media found the shooter's family almost immediately. I want you to listen to how stunned his own brother was to hear about this.
There's not even anything I can say. I mean, how do you... I mean, my brother did this. This is like it was done, you know, like he shot us. I mean, if he'd have killed my kids, I couldn't be more dumbfounded. I mean...
So he's almost speechless, Chad. Hard to have spotted this guy as somebody who might do this?
Allow me to have a different point of view. Sure. I think, as Chuck said, if you look back on a history of these types of mass shootings or targeted violence, it is almost never the case that they're spontaneous, impulsive acts. They always start with an idea, and then essentially a kill chain is put in place where the individual contemplates the event, prepares, executes the supplies and other deadly and lethal force to execute the plot. Then you have the incident. So getting to the left of boom in the kill chain, I think it's almost never the case that individuals haven't seen some anomalous behavior from an individual like this. And in this case, what we've just learned is that actually the father of the perpetrator is Bingo Bruce. He's actually been on the FBI's 10 most wanted list. So there's a history of family...
For what?
For a combination of bank robberies and other fugitive activities. And if you combine that with what appears to be reports of potential gambling debt at the casino here, we're beginning to see pieces come together that would suggest that it's highly unlikely that nobody saw any kind of precursor signatures that this individual may be plotting something.
What about the news that he bought? Okay, when you see that, by the way, folks, when you see he bought 30 guns, there apparently was a gun show in Las Vegas at the time. Have you heard about whether he bought those 30 guns there?
We have not, but I think at the end of the day, the purchase of firearms in and of themselves are not a signature. But if you step back and look at, again, the large amount of ammunition that was purchased here, in order to get that up into the hotel room, and now it's being reported there were 19 weapons in the room itself, combined with several thousand rounds. What you're going to see there is that logistically that's not a small feat. Thankfully, the casinos are very well equipped with surveillance technology, including facial recognition software. So if there was an accomplice to this individual, Mr. Paddock, they will be able to identify who that is.
Nevada has no laws limiting the amount of ammunition or the ammunition magazine capacities, I believe, meaning he could have purchased the equipment, you know, that could hold thousands and thousands of rounds. But also, in addition to that, it's, as I understand it, people are able to buy a contraption, you know, on the open market for something like $160 that can convert a regular rifle into the kind of rifle where you just put your finger on it and hold, and you can spray anywhere. Congress, of course, always talks in the wake of these things about how to prevent them. That's the right thing to do, how to prevent them. But what do you hope to see? Because there are many ways of preventing something.
I think that... Again, setting politics aside,
of course,
if you step back and look at this, that frequently the issue here is not the issue of whether we should have a Second Amendment right in the country. Rather, it's if somebody crosses that line, how quickly can we respond? And if you step back and look at
this is, and let me just say what some people have said, and some Republicans have said. Peter King in the past tried to at least get the smaller parts of it banned, meaning automatic weapons and cop killer bullets. His father was a police officer. Peter King, of course, the New York congressman, a Republican. He got no support from Congress. This isn't about taking away people's rights, he would say, of owning a weapon. It's owning the kind that's a war weapon, a weapon of war, so to speak.
Well, I think a couple points to deconstruct there. First is, you know, we can absolutely, as an open society, have fair and open debate over, do we want to have some restrictions? And as you know, there are background checks. Those have to be appropriately enforced. In some cases, they haven't been, and that has to be looked into. With respect to, though, to the use of actual lethal weapons, obviously, you know, people, if you step back and look at these types of incidents, the cases where you see large amounts of death like
Right.
this, frequently it's the issue of how quickly is the law enforcement community able to respond. And if you step back and look at other situations like Mumbai in 2008, where you had 10 individuals that effectively held down a city of 20 million people for 4 days and killed 163 people, that was a result of law enforcement being inhibited by not having commensurate lethal force. And so one of the things we have to look at in our country is President Trump has just rescinded President Obama's ban on what's called the Program 1033, which is this allowing military surplus equipment to be used by our local law enforcement in these types of rapid reactions. And we saw in the case of the Dallas sniper that was killing police officers, a robot which was used to deploy and kill.
Yes.
This same thing in Orlando, where an armored carrier, personnel carrier, was used to punch a hole in the club wall and get the victims out in time. A Kevlar helmet was used to save an officer's life. So my point here is that you have to look at both sides of the equation, Liz, and in this case, the better side of the equation is allowing law enforcement to have that kind of capability to level the playing field.
Always, I would agree, but it would have been too late at this point. It's just horrifying. Thank you so much, Chad.
Thank you,
Chad
Liz.
Sweet, former Chief of Staff of the Homeland Security Department.